cemetery near you.
Quiet.
I'm just a Poe boy, nobody loves me.
He's just a Poe boy from a Poe family.
Edgar, Edgar, Edgar! We're bringing you Ayal, Rozen, Campbell, Harmon, Valentine Wolfe.
Later on in the show, in part 2, you'll see us talking with them.
Boom, 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 boom.
Madness.
Death takes no prisoners and thrives on hopes and dreams. Death shows no mercy for the many tears and screams. Death has only one purpose, no matter your beliefs and faith. Death is empty and silent, with the broken strings of fate. Death always fulfills its goal, no emotion changing its course. Death waits for no one, shattering hearts with no remorse. Death listens to and laughs, getting high on what it's achieved. Death comes in a flash, or slowly, offering some a release. Death does its job splendidly, sitting back, waiting as a calm sea. For those who were left behind, death will soon return for thee.
Baphomet.
Hi, kitty.
Huh, puppy? The elusive Baphomet comes to visit Bad Juju and J-Bone in cat form. Hi, I'm Bad Juju.
And I'm J-Bone.
And this is Bad Juju and J-Bone Present. We've kicked Jude out of Titles, Talk, and Tipples. We're taking over to interview these great creatives here. Valentine Wolfe, operatic metal music, and Campbell and Ayal, filmmaker, and Poe impersonator, but I think he's the real deal.
Hey.
Sure looking good for 215 years old, Mr. Poe.
Thank you very much.
Campbell and Ayal, you made an Annabelle Lee film, and Valentine Wolfe, you made a music video. What attracted you specifically to Annabelle Lee?
It evokes a lot of the ideas that we still assign to Poe to this day, because you have an historic human being, Poe, and then you have the cultural creation of Poe, that pop culture Poe. Mm-hmm. And that is a love of his life that so many people still think of today. And that idea of loss is still very much tied into his persona, and also him as a human being, as a historic figure, and as a pop culture figure.
Everything that you said is exactly true and exactly correct. So for our version of Annabelle Lee, we took the story of Edgar Allan Poe and his wife, Virginia, and we melded that story together with some of the lyrics that he wrote in his letters when he was talking about this relationship with her. And so we wrote our own lyrics, and we melded some of Edgar Allan Poe's words in, and we used the poetry of his poem as well. We wanted to combine all three elements.
For us, Annabelle Lee, whenever we play it live, two things happen. Generally, if people can name a Valentine Wolfe song, it's Annabelle Lee. And we've been talking about it every now and then. We try to give it a rest in our live set. It never fails. If we don't play it, somebody will come up to us after the set and was like, but y'all didn't play Annabelle Lee. And it was interesting because Sarah was like, we're going to do Annabelle Lee. And I'm like, I don't think we can't set that to music. It absolutely cannot work. But she was right. She put it together, and it really became like, again, it feels weird now when we don't play.
And Ayal, so how did you end up making the Annabelle Lee film?
I was not happy with the job I had and decided to go back to school. For the final, we had to produce a video, a film, a short documentary, a music video, anything that is a video production, short film. At the beginning, when I knew I had a crew, I wanted to do the Telltale Heart, because one of the main stories that Poe in his performances would do was the Telltale Heart, and I felt I knew it so well that in my head I could easily just gonna imagine how it would be if I needed to produce it. And then the pandemic hit. And basically, I went from having about, I think, 8 people that could have helped me produce it to the people that are right here. What it started with us starting in one location, which was an old armory, just slowly devolved into, you know what? Let's just drive around and find out a location and maybe combine everything into this weird, surrealistic video and see what happened.
Yeah, so you had the ocean, the forest, there was a brick wall behind the desk, and then another kind of messed up, I can't remember.
There was also marshland, the tunnel,
and then the cemetery.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, in the cemetery. So yeah, in that short little video, you had a lot of sets.
We did that in one day, where we started. We started in the area where you see Poe starting to write, and then we just said we can't do the whole thing right here. We have to do something.
That was a night, and then we shot the rest of it the next day.
And then I was carrying the desk around. Well, you had equipment.
Oh yeah,
camera, tripod.
I think it was just you and me together.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And so the desk that Poe's using, I'm lugging out onto the ocean, and people saw me in full costume carrying it out, and everybody saw us do it. And then we're like, sir, the cemetery that's nearby in our town, let's go do that. We think we can do this fast enough that we won't get in trouble. And we put it out in the cemetery, and there was a woman who was walking in through the cemetery, and I thought, oh no, she's totally going to call this in. And she saw me, she goes, you look great. And she just loved it. It was great. It just turned out to be a really lucky day of him choosing ideas and me throwing the desk around.
Minds behind Poe Movies.
Season and Thad Chikanowski.
We're bringing you The Raven. Caw! 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 It's a lot spookier than that, though. That was a little cheesy.
Yeah.
That's okay. Enjoy, folks.
Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, While I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door.
'Tis some visitor rapping at my chamber door. Only this, and nothing more.
Ah, distinctly I remember. It was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow. Vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore. For the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels named Lenore, nameless here forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating,
'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. Some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. This it is, and nothing more.
Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer.
Sir,
said I.
Or, madam? Truly, your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door. I scarce was sure I heard you.
Here, I opened wide the door. Darkness there, and nothing more. Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortals ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, Lenore. This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, Lenore. Merely this, and nothing more. Back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning. Soon again I heard a tapping, something louder than before. Surely, said I.
Surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see, then, what thereat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. The wind and nothing more.
Open here, I flung the shutter. When, with many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mien of lord or lady perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more. Then the ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore.
Oh, thy crest be shorn and shaven. Thou,
I said,
art sure no craven. Ghastly, grim, and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's plutonium shore.
Quoth the raven, nevermore. Much I marvelled this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore. For we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculpted bust above his chamber door, with such a name as nevermore. But the raven sitting lonely on that placid bust spoke only that one word, as if its soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing farther than he uttered, not a feather than he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered,
Other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before.
Then the bird said, Nevermore. Startled at the stillness broken by reply so aptly spoken,
Doubtless,
said I.
What it utters is its only stock and store, got from some unhappy master whom unmerciful disaster followed fast, and followed faster till his songs one burden bore, to the dirges of his hope. That melancholy burden bore of nevermore.
But the raven still beguiling all my sad soul into smiling, straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door. Then upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking, fancy unto fancy thinking, what this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking,
Nevermore.
I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing, to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamplight gloated o'er, but whose velvet violet lining with the lamplight gloating o'er she shall press, nevermore. Then methought the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer, swung by seraphim, whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor.
Rich,
I cried.
My God hath lent me. By these angels he hath sent thee respite. Respite, and nepenthe from thy memories of Lenore. Quaff this kind nepenthe, and forget this lost Lenore.
Quoth the raven, nevermore.
Prophet,
said I.
Thing of evil. Prophet still. If bird or devil, were the tempter sent, or were the tempest tossed to the ashore, desolate, yet all undaunted, on this desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted. Tell me, I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore.
Quoth the raven, nevermore.
Prophet,
said I.
Thing of evil. Prophet still. If bird or devil, by that heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden within a distant haven, it shall clasp the sainted maiden whom the angels name Lenore. the angel's name of Lenore.
Quoth the raven, nevermore.
Be that word or sign of parting, bird or fiend!
A shriek upstarted.
Get me back into the tempest and the night's plutonium shore! Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy beat from out my heart, and take thy form from out my door!
Quoth the raven, nevermore. Never flitting, still is sitting, on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door. And his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor, and my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore.
Valentine Wolfe, you also filmed in a cemetery. So how did that go for you filming there?
There was no one in the cemetery when we filmed, so we were a little bit luckier. We went to a out-of-the-way cemetery in South Carolina. There was no one else there on the day we filmed, so we were pretty lucky about that. South Carolina has a lot of crazy old cemeteries, just a lot of spooky stuff. And Edgar Allan Poe was in South Carolina for part of his life. And so we have been extremely excited to go to Sullivan's Island, where he was part of the time.
Yeah, Virginia, she's in, what is it, Westminster in Baltimore? She and her mom and Edgar all are in the one grave in that burial ground. We got to see that. That was pretty cool.
We went to see it. We went to the aquarium and then we went to see
Isn't that graveyard just incredible though?
Oh,
like
it's
that
so
graveyard, and then you go around the corner and it's like there's this whole like world. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's like walking into the past. It's so quiet, and people are so respectful of it too. I will say for Annabelle's inspiration, Poe himself never said anything about it because he generally, other than The Raven, he didn't really talk about a lot of inspiration for his works because he was too busy trying to just make more money to keep the family going. But it was his mother-in-law, Maria Clem, who she stated that Annabelle was based on Virginia.
It wasn't even published publicly until 3 months after his death. He turned it into Union Magazine, I think, was who he submitted it to, like in 1849. They didn't print it till 3 months after his death in 1850. And I guess his editor read some lines from Annabel Lee at his funeral a month after his death. And so that makes sense that nobody was really talking about Annabel Lee or wondering who she was, because before he died, for him to explain. So everybody had to guess.
He worked so hard in his life for just pennies. They were constantly in poverty, and even when The Raven hit, it was still a struggle for him. But then when he dies, everyone was ready to publish his works. Everyone was ready to make as much money as they could off of his legacy, without giving his family any money, without giving Maria Clem any money, or any of his extended relatives as well. And that's when they started to batter down the door, because as we all know, when are you really popular as an artist?
When you're dead.
Exactly.
Braxton and Sarah, you've done more than just Annabel Lee.
In 2013, we put out a whole album based on Edgar Allan Poe, and we called it Once Upon a Midnight, and we did Annabel Lee, The Telltale Heart, Mask of the Red Death, so many of his poems and short stories. We did our interpretation of that, but that's been over 10 years ago. And so we are definitely interested in exploring more of those ideas. Recently, we put out another Poe song. We did A Dream Within a Dream, and we started setting The Raven. We can never get enough of Poe, you know?
We've done Poe music for middle schools, elementary schools. If you've ever seen a fifth grade class headbanging, it is absolutely is adorable. But we wrote some dark ambient music for a one-act play called Lamplight and Shadow, which was also a telling of Poe's life, because Campbell nailed it. There's this story, and it's always fascinating to me about how so many horror icons are just so seared in our consciousness. And I think Edgar is like that. I mean, my first contact with horror was Telltale Heart in third grade. And so it kind of gets so like up here and familiar. It takes a second to like give some distance and like just realize how jaw-dropping virtuosic he was as a creator, and telling the story of who he was as a person in addition to his work. It's something that we started exploring, and to your point, we've done that with quite a few people, but I think there's a special place in our heart for Edgar Allan Poe. When we finished both the theater score and the album that Sarah pointed out, we realized something. We could make a whole career of just doing Edgar Allan Poe music, because there was just so much we didn't touch. So it's awesome to like go back to it. And just, there's always something more to discover. It's so inspiring.
Hey, J-Bone.
Yeah.
Have you seen the film adaptation of Edgar Allan Poe's movie, The Telltale Heart?
No.
It stars Benicio del Floro.
Ah.
Ba-dum-bum-ching.
Hey, Bad Juju.
Yeah, J-Bone?
You know what Edgar Allan Poe's favorite vegetable is?
What?
Corn on the macabre.
Mmm, yummy. With the memorizing, have you ever forgot something on stage?
Oh yeah.
I mean, just, you know.
Yeah, I have gone.
I was there. Yeah, you skipped.
I can skip lines. I went completely blank one time, but it was with an audience of librarians, so they were very, very forgiving. I love librarians. Librarians are the best people in the world.
And but the thing is, it was early, and nobody will even notice. And like,
yeah, unless somebody's following along,
yeah.
I'm smooth enough to catch myself. But for stage performers, like, and for musicians as well, like you get into your groove, and once you've done it long enough, you can recover very quickly, and either smooth it or just keep going, and the audience is with you because they're on your side. They want to be entertained. They want to have a good time. They're not out to get you. You just trust your audience to go along with you.
Sometimes we are so lucky when people come to our shows and they've either seen us before or they've heard our music before, and so they are singing along with the songs, and that is just the best feeling in the world when somebody is going to sing along with your songs. But sometimes they'll say the verses out of order, or they'll have the words slightly wrong, and if I'm making eye contact with somebody while that is happening, that can throw me off a little bit.
We went to a horror con where he was a guest as Poe, and one of my icons, like growing, the reason I love movie horror is because of Night of the Living Dead. And at the con was Judith O'Day, Barbara from Night of the Living Dead. When we went to talk to her, I did not know what to say. I was just so starstruck because this is an icon.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was that
she's incredibly sweet woman, and she asked me about what I was
saw
doing.
this,
right? She asked me about it, and I said, well, I'm here to I'm performing as part of the con, and we just want to meet her and get her signature and just do the normal con thing.
Yeah.
And she goes, oh, I'll come to your show, and I went, oh, thank you. That's very nice of you to say that. And she came to the show.
She actually came.
She sat on the front row, watched the whole thing, and hugged us later. We saw her at another con.
Yeah, a year later, we
year...
saw it in another con, and she was like, oh, and she came and hugged us and talked to us.
Hopped up and hugged us, and she's an incredibly sweet woman.
And I was ready to die. I'm good. Done.
But it shows like that love of Poe is so across the board.
Yeah.
It's with so many different ages and so many different people that it's the first time you've ever met someone, you can connect over that, and you hear the same stories of when you were first introduced to Poe, when that one story and that one poem really hit you. And it's kind of heartbreaking that we all do this now and we can't tell him how much he
maybe one day.
Well, yeah, actually one day we might all have the opportunity.
Yeah, maybe, who knows.
We have a very similar story. Like it's like the exact same story, but we were lucky enough to do it with Elizabeth Shepard, who was Ligeia in Roger Corman's. And we were at a horror con. We got to talk to her, and she's like, well, I'm going to read Poe, and we kind of the con runners thought it would be cool. And so I've gotten to play ambient bass in a mellow declamation with Ligeia reading that monologue. And it was the same thing. We're like, well, I don't think she'll like metal. And then we were playing our heavy set, and she's right there in the front row tapping. And it's amazing that sort of these people like what we're doing. So it is awesome to hear these experiences. And I'm with you. It's like that Doctor Who episode where he brings go. I wish we could do that with Edgar. Look at what you've done.
Yeah.
Look at what you've done for the world. You are a national treasure, and so many people, our lives are better because you were who you were.
To find out where I'm performing next, go to rottenartist.com, and there's links to all my socials and upcoming shows.
All my socials is Haunted Cosplay.
I've had so much fun talking about Edgar Allan Poe, and I would love to talk about it more with more people.
And if you want to make that happen, valentinewolfe.com.
Wonderful. And thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right. You guys have a wonderful evening.
Y'all are amazing. Thank you all so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you very much. Wonderful meeting you guys too. I look forward to further endeavors to chat with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She wends her way around her walk, and round she goes. She does not speak, she does not talk, as she wends her way around her walk. And round she goes, and round she goes. Her husband's dead, her husband's gone, he died, alack the day. They will not let her into town, they built a walk for her to round. Because he's gone away, because he's gone away. The widow wends her way around her home. The children watch her as they play. They make up stories every day about the witch who eats their bones. She eats young children's bones. Her husband does not know he's dead. He follows round and round. He whispers nothing's in her ear. He does not know she cannot hear. He's buried in the ground. He's buried underground. The widow wanders round and round neath pale Hecate's moon. She conjures spirits in the dark, up on her walk above the park. In the night's dark inky gloom, it's gloom. In the night's dark inky gloom. Are any of these stories true? Forsooth we cannot say. We can't by any magic art divine what's in her secret heart. Her mind we can't essay. Her mind we can't essay. But still we all do dream of her, each and every night. She sends us nightmares while we sleep, demons conjured from the deep. In the moon's faint pale light, it's light. In the moon's faint pale light. She wends her way around her walk, and round she goes. She does not speak, she does not talk, as she wends her way around her walk. And round she goes, and round she goes.
Hey, Sally the Zombie Cheerleader here, and Bad Juju and J-Bone have invited me to help introduce their Everything Edgar episode, and I have a brilliant gem for you, The Telltale Heart, as read by the legendary Bela Lugosi. Now, this recording seems to date from around 1946. Bela likely recorded this reading spot for his agent. His agent would then make copies to send them out to anyone interested in booking Bela's solo stage act, which also included a Poe tale. So please enjoy this rare recording of The Telltale Heart, as read by Bela Lugosi.
True. Nervous. Very, very dreadfully nervous I had been and am. But why will you say that I'm mad? The disease has sharpened my senses, not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all was a sense of hearing acute. I heard all things in the heaven and in the earth. I heard many things in hell. How then am I mad? Listen and observe how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the whole story. It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain. But once conceived, it haunted me day and night. Object? There was none. For I loved the old man. He had never wronged me, he had never given me insult, and for his money, I had no desire. I think it was his eye. Yes, that was it. One of his eyes resembled that of a vulture. pale blue eye with a film over it. And whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold. So by degrees, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man, and thus rid myself of the eye forever. Now this is the point. You fancy me mad. Madmen know nothing. But you should have seen me. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded, with what caution and foresight I went to work. I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him. And every night, about midnight, I turned the latch on his door and opened it. Oh, so gently. And then, when I had made an opening sufficient for my head, I put in a dark lantern, all closed, so that no light shone out. Then I thrust in my head. When my head was well in the room, I undid the lantern cautiously. Oh, so cautiously. I undid it just so much that a single thin ray fell upon the vulture eye. And this I did for 7 long nights, every night, just at midnight. But I found the eye always closed. And so it was impossible to do the work. For it was not the old man who vexed me. It was his evil eye. Upon the 8th night, I was more than usually cautious in opening the door. A watch's minute hand moves more quickly than did mine. When I was about to open the lantern, my thumb slid upon the thin fastening, and the old man sprang up in bed, crying out, "Who's there?" I kept quite still and said nothing. For a whole hour, I did not move a muscle. In the meantime, I did not hear him lie down. He was still sitting up in bed, listening. Presently, I heard a slight groan, and I knew it was a groan of mortal terror. He had been trying to fancy them causeless. He had been saying to himself, "It is nothing but the wind in the chimney. It is only a mouse crossing the floor." But all in vain, because death, in approaching him, had stalked with his black shadow before him and enveloped the victim. When I had waited a long time without hearing him lie down, I resolved to open a little crevice in the lantern. Cannot imagine how stealthily, until at length a simple dim ray like a thread of the spider shot out from the crevice and fell full upon the vulture eye. And it was open, wide open. I grew furious as I gazed upon it. All a dull blue with a hideous veil over it that chilled the very marrow in my bones. But I could see nothing else of the old man's face, for I had directed the ray precisely upon the damned spot. Then there came to my ears a low, dull, quick sound such as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I knew the sound well. It was the beating of the old man's heart. It increased my fury. I scarcely breathed. I held the lantern motionless. I tried how steadily I could maintain the ray upon the eye. Meantime, the hellish tattoo of the heart increased. It grew quicker and quicker. quicker and louder every instant. The old man's terror must have been extreme. I thought the heart must burst. And now the new anxiety seized me. The sound would be heard by a neighbor. The old man's hour had come. With a loud yell, I threw open the lantern and leaped into the room. He shrieked once, only once, for in an instant I dragged him to the floor and pulled the heavy bed over him. And I smiled gaily to find the deed so far done. In minutes, the heartbeat formed with a muffled sound. This, however, did not vex me. It would not be heard through the wall. At length it ceased. The old man was dead. I removed the bed and examined the corpse. Yes, he was stone dead. I would trouble me no more. If still you think me mad, you will think no longer when I describe the wise precautions I took for the concealment of the body. The night waned, and I worked hastily but entirely. First of all, I dismembered the corpse. I cut off the head, and the arms, and the legs. I then took up 3 planks from the flooring and deposited all between the scantlings. I then replaced the walls so cleverly, so cunningly, that no human eye could detect anything wrong. There was nothing to wash out, no stain of any kind, no blood spot whatever. I had been too wary for that. The thumb had caught all. When I had made an end of these labors, it was 4 o'clock, still dark as midnight. As the bell sounded the hour, there came a knocking at the street door. I went down to open it with a light heart, for what had I now to fear? There entered 3 men who introduced themselves as officers of the police. A shriek had been heard by a neighbor during the night, and they had been deputed to search the premises. I smiled, for what had I to fear? I bade the gentleman welcome. The shriek, I said, was my own in a dream. The old man, I mentioned, was absent in the country. I took my visitors all over the house. I led them at length to his chamber. I showed them his treasures, secure, undisturbed. In the enthusiasm of my confidence, I brought chairs into the room and bade them rest. I, myself, in the wild audacity of my perfect triumph, placed my own seat upon the very spot beneath which reposed the corpse of the victim. The officers were satisfied. My manner had convinced them. They sat, and while I answered cheerily, they chatted of familiar things. But ere long, I felt myself getting pale. My wish had gone. My head ached, and I fancied a ringing in my ear. But still they sat and chatted. The ring became more distinct. I talked more freely to get rid of the feeling. But it continued, and at length I found that the noise was not within my ears. No doubt I now grew very pale, but I talked more fluently and with a heightened voice. Yet the sound increased. It was a low, dull, quick sound, such as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I gasped for breath. And yet, the officers heard it not. I talked more quickly. The noise steadily increased. Why should they? Oh, I paced the floor, to and fro, with heavy strides, but the noise steadily increased. Oh, God, what could I do? I followed, I raised, I swore. I swung the chair upon which I had been sitting and grated it upon the board, but the noise arose over all. It grew louder, 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 until the men chattered pleasantly and smiled. Was it possible they heard that? Oh, my God! No, no! They heard! They suspected! They knew! They were making mockery of my horror! But anything was better than this agony, anything! I could bear those hypocritical smiles no longer. I felt that I must scream or die. Now, again. Hark. Louder. 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 Villains! I scream. I admit the deed. Tear up the flanks. Here! Here! It is the baby of his hideous heart.
Thank you so much for joining us in this Everything Edgar episode.
You've been watching Bad Juju and J-Bone
as we present Edgar Allan Poe. If you have a short horror film, horror song, or horror story that you would like to share with us,
send it to us. Information on that will be posted on the screen somewhere here, or even here.
or maybe right there.
Magical world of editing.
Not only can you find us on YouTube, but you can now find us on Open Signal out of Portland, Oregon. Like, subscribe, send us your questions,
comments.
We'll see you soon. Dreadful dreams.
Take this kiss upon the brow, and imparting from you now, this much let me offer, you are not wrong, who deem that my days have been a dream.
look at what you've done. Look at what you've done for the world. Like, you are a national treasure, and like so many people, our lives are better because you were who you were.